Tax day is coming.
Oh, no.
But if you sign up for Robinhood Gold's IRA with a 3% match, you can get up to $195 for the 2023 tax year.
Oh, yeah.
Sign up at Robinhood.com/boost by tax day to get the biggest contribution match on the market. Subscription fees apply.
Investing involves risk. 3% match requires gold for 1 year from first match. Must keep IRA for 5 years. Robinhood Financial, LLC, member SIPC.
Welcome to the Dragon's Lair.
Hello and welcome to the Dragon's Lair podcast, your home all things Dragons IFC and rugby in the region. I'm Jamie, and joining me as always is my co-host Gavin Thomas. How are you doing, Gav?
I'm all right, Jamie. I'm considerably less tired than I thought I would be this evening, as I was due to be playing vet rugby this afternoon, but it was postponed. But in a superb logistical issue, because I knew the skipper of both teams, I was managed to be named on the starting 15 for both teams. but one at loose end and one at inside centre, which suggests someone doesn't quite understand my abilities as a player.
That would be one hell of a shift, isn't it, to cover for inside centres? I can imagine doing that.
No, I have played every single position on the field at least once.
Really?
But, yeah.
Oh, fair play to you.
No, not well. You know, I'm a very average second row and a very, very average six. But I have played everywhere else.
Jack of all trades, master of none, Gav, is that fair to say? Or
third choice everything, that's how I describe myself.
Fair enough. Okay, so you can find us on platforms such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pocket Casts, and the Sports Social Network. And if you like what we do, please rate us and leave us a good review, as it all helps to grow the pod. And can I just say, if you are listening to us and you're on Apple Podcasts and you're subscribed to us, can you please leave us a review if you haven't done so already? Because it really does help the pod. It spreads the word and it makes us more accessible and easier to find for other Dragon supporters. So, yeah, if you're listening on Apple, please just take a couple of minutes to leave us a kind review. It would be much appreciated. Right, okay, then. So this week, Gav, we're going to have a chat about the Six Nations. And we'll look ahead to the return of the URC. URC equals best league, or as me and you say, URC equals perfectly fine. That's what we prefer to say it, don't we? But URC equals perfectly fine. Yep, so it's returning this weekend, and the Dragons are away to Glasgow on Saturday night. So we're going to preview that game later on, and hopefully we'll be joined by Iain Hay from the Scottish Rugby Podcast. So yeah, he'll give us a Glasgow perspective on that, and we'll talk about the Scotland game, because there may have been one or two talking points in that game to digest. He's not happy about that disallowed try, and who could blame him, quite frankly? No. We will discuss that later on. However, let's start with England versus Wales at Twickenham. So it finished England 16, Wales 14. A penalty try and a fair play. It was an excellent try from Alex Mann. Had given Warren Gatland's men a 14-5 lead at half-time. But a try from Fraser Dingwall and the boot of George Ford gave England another narrow win. So that means now that Wales are play 2, lost 2. We're fifth in the table with 3 points. And look, you know, I'm a glass half full person, as you know, Gav. But I'm feeling optimistic about Wales going forward. Even though we've lost these games, I'm seeing enough green shoots to be positive, you know. So what was your take on the game then, Gav? Do you share my optimism about Wales going forward? Do you share my...
Right. Yeah, I'll start with that
thoughts,
because
okay.
The rest of it all sounds slightly contradictory. Yeah, I do. No, I do. I think if you consider the youth of that team, and it's hilarious when Borthwick was saying the England team is young. Cam Whitton's played 17 adult games of rugby, and 2 of them have been for Wales. You know, that's a young
It's
team.
nuts, isn't it? It is crazy. And he looks so assured, doesn't he, Gavin? Fair play to him. For a young man.
him and Alex Mann's haircut is a war crime, but his rugby is great. Like, really, they look like guys who've been doing it forever. If you had said to me who was the inexperienced player on that field, he would never have picked up Cam Winnett, because he looked good under a high ball, under a lot of pressure. But yeah, so yeah, there's a lot of ability. Even Iain Lloyd, who I don't really see the point of, and didn't have a particularly good game, is all right. He's a perfectly good player, and there's lots of quality elsewhere in the team. The thing is, we should have won it, and I think that's my frustration with it. They scored that try in the first half when they were down to 13 men, which they should never have done, for two reasons. We were playing too much rugby in our own half, and I appreciate that's what that team wants to do. But there is a time when you need to kick the leather off the ball and get off the pitch, and that was the time. And then we give away that scrum, and we should never have been in a position where a 7-man scrum had enough go forward for Earl to just bump people off. And we didn't play enough rugby when we had that 2-man advantage, because our the England blitz defence is awful, and I could see every time Lloyd was getting a ball, we were looking for those gaps out wide and trying to get to Josh Adams. And the way I described it in the group chat I was in yesterday was a bit like, did you play Mortal Kombat in the 90s on the arcade machines?
I absolutely did, yeah.
Like you would try over and over again the combination of buttons to do the fatality, and eventually it would come off, and you would. That's what Iain Lloyd's kick out wide was like. I'm going to keep trying this till I get the fatality. But it didn't quite come off. He didn't quite get the buttons right. And that's my frustration with it. And then in the second half, when they brought their bigger boys on, and it was Chandler Cunningham himself and guys, with their additional physicality, that's where we were beaten, I think, in terms of physicality, because it's raw, but it lacks physicality. Like Alex Mann looks like he's about 13 stone wringing wet. And when they were bringing on their stronger players, we just struggled with that physicality. And it lacks game management. And I know that's going to sound like Dragon's Lair bingo, me going on about game management. But that's
lack of leadership.
Yeah,
that's what I'm waiting for next.
no, but it was. But there was a lack of somebody just saying, right, we're going to calm down now. And we're not going to play a lot of rugby now, because that's what they want us to do. So we're just going to kick the balls in the corners, and we're going to keep the ball there, and we're going to keep the ball off the field now, because on the field is a dangerous place. And that's, but who's going to make that decision? You've got a 21-year-old, 20-year-old guy, second rower captain. You've got Iain Lloyd's 23, but I'm convinced he plays under 10s with my son. You've got who's going to make that decision? Not Thomas Williams, because he's insane. It doesn't matter how old Thomas Williams is, because he is literally insane. So we'll always make the worst decisions, and that's relaxed. Mind you, Have you seen the footage of Gareth Anscombe in recovery?
I haven't. No.
No, he's in Wales and he's in recovery.
Interesting. Picking up on your point about Iain Lloyd, so he had a lot of criticism from people on social media. A lot of players did, and I said on X, I said, look, for me it was a mixed bag with Iain Lloyd. We have to remember this was his 4th cap, and it was his first starting test at 10, and he was getting a little joy out wide with some of his crossfield kicks, mind you. He was. Some of his kicking out of hand was actually pretty good, and we were causing England a lot of problems out wide.
His broken field running as well. His broken field running was good, because he doesn't run typical 10 lines, and he was pulling defence out, and he was opening up gaps. That bit was fine. He can't tackle a bag of toffees, which is a problem.
No, I mean that tackle attempt on Ben Earl, I mean that was bad. That was pretty bad, wasn't it? But going back to Iain Lloyd, I think the thing is for me, some of his decision making was quite naive at times, and you could
Yeah.
tell that this was a young man, put into the hot seat at 10. He wasn't all bad. He did some,
No,
like I said, some nice touches. So his kicking was good. Not as bad as what some people are saying,
no.
but there were occasions where I thought, his naivety and lack of experience showed. A key point in the first half, though, Gav, you were right, what you mentioned earlier. So England were down to 13 men. Ollie Chesham and Ethan Roots got sent to the sin bin. Wales failed to score a single point, and we actually conceded a try. So you look back on that moment there, don't you? The game management. I think that was when Johan Lloyd got caught in no man's land because he tried to run it out of his own 22, didn't he? Instead of clearing it, and then he got caught.
And he's flicked her up to Rio, spilt it, and then from the resulting scrum, they scored. Now, imagine, we have to imagine it because it can't happen, but imagine, same game, Dan Bigger gets that ball.
Oh, it's gone. It's off the field, isn't it?
Yeah, he is kicking that out of shape because he knows there's no rugby to be played down here. I think we look great in that end of the field. But even then, I didn't say we look clueless. No, that's not fair. We didn't look clueless. We defended against England, fine. They try. We could have done better with the try, but I'll tell you what, I'll cope with that. We should have been out of sight, and that was the problem.
Yeah, I mean, going into this game, Wales were not fancied by many people. A lot of people were predicting a heavy defeat for Wales. And, we can shrug our shoulders and go, oh, we lost, well, we were going to lose anyway. But actually, to me, it felt like a missed opportunity because we was in a
100%.
winning position.
100%.
So I on the one hand, I'm thinking, we've lost, it's disappointing. But on the other hand, I'm really proud of the effort that we showed. But it's quite funny, isn't it? Because in the Scotland game, we scored all our points in the second half.
Yeah.
Whereas this weekend, we scored all our points in the first half. We didn't score any in the second half. So it's quite a contrast, really, from last week. But I just thought it was a missed opportunity. But I am quite pleased and proud. I'm not going to be doom and gloom about Wales, as a lot of people are on social media, because I think there's a lot of green shoots. We talked about earlier, Cam Winnett, like I said, 17th game, professional game, and he just looks to the man of born, doesn't he? Intentional. He's so cool, calm, composed, didn't put a foot wrong. Alex Mann, I think the 6th jersey now is his going forward. But let's talk about the Dragons boys, though, because the Dragons boys have done incredibly well the Six Nations. And Rio Dyer, for me now, is a key player in this Wales team because his work rate is off the charts. I mean, did you see that cross kick that he had to deal with? And that could have very easily been a try. It was a very tricky cross-field kick from George Ford. He gathered that, which was really good work. Showed really good awareness as well.
It, because it was over his shoulder, and he's watching, it's kind of tracked it perfectly, and his body position. Literally, if I could, I'm going to show that to kids when I'm coaching. They're saying that's how you take a high ball.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I thought he showed really good awareness of the laws when he prevented George Ford from converting England's first try, and there was a lot of piss being boiled about that. But if you read the laws, apparently, he did make his move, and he was entitled to. He started when he was able to kill that ball away. So
what I missed, dog. I was in a game where that happened. Once guy started his move, and then we've all started running up, and he's looking at the ref, and one of my teammates has kicked the ball up the field and hit the 10 square in the face. Who absolutely lost it.
Yeah, but I thought that was really clever from Rio to, because it was really good awareness, actually, and he had nothing to lose by doing that. And obviously, Elliot D, just kicking the ball off the tee, that was brilliant. And he just looked a constant threat, didn't he? Whenever Rio had the ball, you felt like something was going to happen. I just feel he's really growing now as an international wing, because there are some people a little bit skeptical about him. But for me now, I don't think his place could be questioned, because he is becoming a key part of this Wales team going forward.
He's dangerous from a kick-off reclaim as well. He can get under a kick-off. He's a great player. And I think, like you say, his work rate, and he is flashy, and he has got tons of pace. His defence is a lot better. There was a move when we were unlucky not to score in the corner in the second half, and Josh Adams has got it, and Rio Dyer has come in and kind of popped it back into Adams to open up a bit of space for him. He's run the entire width of the field. I think he was great. Wayno, as usual, was absolutely everywhere.
He's been brilliant. Iain Wainwright, he's just dynamic as always, and he's been rejuvenated since Gatland. As you know, we all know about Wayne Pivac. He throws him out, as with Elliot D, which we'll talk about in a bit. But since Wainwright's come back into the national setup, again, a key player of this Wales team now, dynamic as always. A word for Tommy Reffell. I know he's not a Dragons player, but for me, he's been Wales' best player so far in the Six Nations. Absolutely outstanding. And what I liked about him yesterday was not only was he so good at the breakdown and defensively, which you always expect from a class player like Reffell, he was actually a threat with ball in hand. So he was carrying a lot more, wasn't he? Did you notice that?
And what I liked about him when he runs, he doesn't run like a forward. He runs like a centre. He's got the ball in both hands. He's looking either side of him.
Yeah.
You know, he's really quite capable runner. And you know, think about that back row when Jack Morgan comes back. How do you get those? You know, well, I think you can I wouldn't put Rafael at 6. But you know, you lose Alex Mann then, which is a shame because he's a proper 6. But you can't lose Rafael's ability at the turnover because, and this is my hot take now, Wales has produced great breakdown merchants. I think he's the best one we've produced in the last 2 decades.
Yeah, there is talk about, I know Tom Shanklin was saying on Scrum 5 that he would have Morgan at 6 and Reffell at 7. Now, I'm not a fan of the dual open sides to the back row. I don't know what you think about that. It didn't really work for Wales, especially against Argentina World Cup today. So I'm a little bit sceptical about that. Do you think that's an option for Wales going forward? Or do you think we should just look to blood Alex Mann on that blind side flank?
I like a 6 at 6.
Yeah.
Yeah, the 6's job is to slow down the breakdown. The 6's job is to put people on their arse. The 6's job is to get over the gain line. The 6's job isn't to mess about the breakdown.
No, quite right. I agree with you. Right. I got to get this off my chest now, right? Because I've been thinking about this a lot. Elliot D, he's been brilliant, hasn't he, Gav? The Six Nations. And he had a rare start yesterday. Excellent. Hit his targets, carried hard, defensive solid. He was having a really good game. And then on 54 minutes, Gatland decides to take him off, along with Kieran Azarati. Ryan Elias comes on, and to the surprise of absolutely no one, the lineup malfunctions. Now, people who know me know I am not a fan, and the scrum did, yeah. Now, I'm not a fan of Ryan Elias. I make no bones about that. But taking Elliot D off after just 54 minutes, that felt like a bad call because it felt too early to me. Now, I don't expect Elliot to do a full 80, of course I don't, but 54 minutes, come on. Do you agree with me, Gav? Was it the right decision by Gatland? Was it too early?
In my new status, apparently I'm more open-minded about everything. I understood why he did it. He was bringing Elias on to deal with the improved physicality that England were bringing into the game because we were getting beaten up a bit. But I don't think Elias brought anything to the physical battle, and his line-out throw-in wasn't just inaccurate, but I genuinely think if he had stood in a boat, he wouldn't have hit water with some of his throws because it was absolutely shocking. Absolutely shocking. And that's part of the issue, isn't it? You know, kind of in the first game against Scotland, and I realise Ian's arrived, so I haven't typed it just for him to hear that. First game against Scotland, if we'd had a functioning line-out, we'd have won that game. If we'd had a functioning line-out in the second half against England, we'd have won that game. And removing one of the key elements of our functioning line-out, the bloke who can actually throw it straight to the second row, was a bit of a mystery to me.
Yeah, I just felt that was a really strange decision. Like I said, I'm not expecting Elliot to do a full 80, but 54 minutes, you know, I'm sorry. I think that was a bad call by Warren personally. I know I'm going to sound biased, but it just didn't feel right to me, taking him off that soon.
Well, it was a poor performance by Elias. And even most one-eyed Scarlets fan would accept that. And I was
I
having a
don't think they
chat.
would. I don't think they would. You know what Scarlets fans are like.
Oh no, well, I was chatting with a number of Scarlets fans yesterday with Gav from Rock and Roll, Rhiannon Garth
Yeah.
Jones, and Phil Lewis, who's been on Rock and Roll as well, all Scarlets fans, and they all accepted Elias had a poor game.
Mm. But yeah, I was encouraged by the performance. I was disappointed with the second half. I felt that we let us slip. Credit to England, they overturned that deficit, which they did against Italy, to overturn the halftime deficit. And I'm still not convinced by England. Borthwick's England, I got to be honest, but they are winning games, aren't they?
They're poor. We're poor. Italy are poor.
But we're in transition, Gav. It's different now.
Yeah.
I think, we got young kids. We're building towards something. Whereas England, I don't really know what they're building
Well,
towards.
I
If you
think
see what I mean.
Borthwick is trying to do something different because they've changed their defensive structure and they've brought Felix Jones in to change their
Yeah.
defensive structure. I can't. And it's strange because Sinfield's defence didn't look like a rugby league defence, whereas Felix Jones, who isn't from a rugby league background, is bringing a more rugby league type defence, that hard blitz. And
Yeah.
he's trying to. No, Borthwick has a game plan, but bloke was second row forward most of his life. I can't imagine there's many brain cells left in there, so I don't know what that game plan will. But I think England are building. I think we're building. Italy are building, but building what we don't know. We'll see. And then I think Scotland are probably at the height of their powers. France appear to be waning a bit, and I don't know if you saw the Ireland Italy game today.
I did. Yeah.
I did. When you see documentaries and it's like a python and it eats a large rodent and it just strangles it for a bit and then it swallows it and just like really slow pace and just at their efficiency. It was just like that. It was like watching a boa constrictor killing a guinea pig. There was no pleasure to be derived from it, but there was a certain kind of perverse kind of thing in just the absolute efficiency with which they beat them.
Yeah. A couple of things before we move on. So I'm convinced more than ever now that Warren Ball is dead.
Yeah,
We cannot do it with this crop of players because I don't know if you remember in the first half, we went through 25 phases of trying to get over the gain line and we were going nowhere. We were going backwards. And I'm thinking, in the days where we had Jamie Roberts, John Fox, Cuthbert, Lydiate, and all that, we could do that. We could go through 25 phases and get over the gain line and get into the red zone. We can't do it anymore. Our crop of players haven't got that physicality and strength to do it. So Warren Ball is coming to an end. I'm convinced it's dead. Also, as well, Gatland, after the game, saying that he's urging patience from the Welsh public. Exactly the right thing to say, but he needed to say that before the tournament started, instead of saying we can absolutely win this tournament.
but the problem, the problem is, right, and I've come to this realization more than anything now after a day watching 80s rugby, 80s Welsh rugby at that. The Welsh rugby public is clueless to a degree. Not the good listeners, not the good listeners of our pod who are clearly media savvy, but like it's the why do they kick it so much crowd.
Oh, Gav, how many times have we talked about that on this pod?
Yeah, but it's just synonymous and just absolutely captures where we are. All the people, why don't they do this? Why don't they do that? If it was as easy as doing this or doing that, everybody would be doing it. Rugby union at this level is an incredibly complicated and difficult sport played by elite athletes. So shut up, give them a chance to do what they're doing and worry about it at the next World Cup, not now.
Absolutely. Should we introduce our guest? Because he's joined us.
He's been very patiently listening to us talking about Wales.
Yes, indeed. Mr. Iain Hay from the Scottish Rugby Podcast. How are we doing, sir?
Oh, hello, Jamie and Gavin. Nice to. I'm sorry I'm late. Firstly, thanks for joining me. Well, I've got a few things I maybe want to get off my chest, don't I?
I've been waiting for this. Ian did message me yesterday. Are we going to talk about because there were a couple of talking points, wasn't there?
Yeah, there's one major one certainly. I would say.
Right. Okay. So let's get into it. So let's move on to Scotland then. Scotland 16, France 20. and there's only one place to start. The try that never was, the late TMO drama, Sam Skinner's try. Nick Berry said there is no conclusive evidence to overturn my original decision. Brian McNeice ruled it out. Although he did actually say, didn't he, that you could see the ball grounded. So it's all very confusing. Iain, I know you're absolutely fuming about this. Take it away. What were your thoughts on that decision and the game as a whole?
Firstly, the game as a whole, what I'm seeing a lot is people said we should have been in that position. We were the better side and we weren't scoring enough points. That's absolutely fair. We've not been as clinical the last couple of weeks as we should be. However, now that decision at the end, I feel like we seem to be on the end of quite a lot of game decisive moments that don't go my way, especially both for Scotland and Glasgow. I can think of, obviously of infamous ones, the 2015 World Cup quarter-final with Craig Joubert. 3 years ago, a game against Wales when Xander Ferguson gets sent off, Liam Williams tackled Stuart Hogg without the ball. If we get a penalty that's in kicking range, we can knock that over. And if results had gone the same, obviously, it changes the dynamics of the group and whatnot. But if the results had stayed the same for the rest of the Six Nations, we'd have won the damn thing. And then yesterday was just so. I didn't. When he said held up, I've actually seen a still where Nick Berry is very close to. He's got a good eye line, but he's just so quick to shout held up. Then we go to the replays, and Brian McNeice, he says at one point, he's like, "Oh yeah, if we just rock and roll this here, yep, it's on the foot, and then there it is on the ground." He says it's on the ground. Then he goes to Nick Berry. Nick Berry's on. He's like, "All right, so does this mean I overturn my on-field decision?" And then Brian McNeice goes, "Oh wait, steady on, Nick. Let's not go too hasty." I don't understand. I hate to sound like a sore loser, but I am at the moment.
That's fine.
I think other teams get given that. I think some other teams get given that. I think if that's the other way around, I think if it's France, he gives it. If it's the All Blacks,
you think it's England at Twickenham, you think that's given, yeah?
Yeah. Okay. I do think Berry is a bit of a reputation referee. Well, the last time he refereed Scotland against France, just prior to the World Cup, some of his decisions were baffling. Even one went in Scotland's favour. For Duhan's second try, George Horne comes in through the kitchen window, not through the gate. But yeah, I think yesterday that decision, I'm astonished, really. I'm kind of appalled, but then I'm also so used to it now. My girlfriend was very surprised. She was like, "I thought you'd be absolutely screaming your head off at the moment." I went, I've seen this so many times. I'm battle worn. But I think that's a try. That's a try all day. The ball is on the ground. He's over the line. He hasn't lost possession of it at any stage. That try should be given, and Scotland should be 2 for 2.
Without wanting to kind of poke you with a stick metaphorically, Iain, don't you think Scotland should have been out the side anyway at that point?
Yes.
Yeah,
we definitely should. Hugh Jones, after his sort of early injury scare, Hugh Jones, I thought, didn't have. His first half was very poor. He threw a couple straight into touch when we looked like we were making some good headway. Just some wrong choices. Just before halftime, obviously, I'd admired the ambition for a while, but once the clock went into the red, just take the 3 points, because that always seems to happen. We go for these scrum resets, and then eventually, the scrum's a lottery as it is. So just after 4 resets, Nick Berry says, "I'll go to France this time." We should have done better. France were really poor. They're missing Dupont and Intimac so much.
Oh, big time. They really are.
Especially Dupont, yeah. Because Pennell hardly got in the game. Both Pennell and Duhan, actually, big heavyweights over on that same flank. Neither of them really got involved much. We should have. We should have won that game. I thought Finn Russell had a pretty. I've not watched it again. I nearly started watching it again last night. Then I thought, I can't put myself through this. Not yet, not so soon. But I thought Russell had a great game. I think defensively, especially.
No, I think Finn Russell is I think Finn Russell sometimes, his decision-making lets him down, nor never his ability. Whereas I think this Six Nations, his decision-making has been absolutely up there with his ability, and he's proven why he's captain. And, kind of for me, why he's the standout guy when we talk in British Lions tens as well. It's...
I love Finn Russell. I think he's been really good the Six Nations. The captaincy role, I was a little bit unsure, like, oh, Finn, is he really captain material? But he's been really good here. Has he impressed you being in that captaincy role?
Yes. One thing with Finn Russell, obviously I've read many interviews with him over the years. I saw his debut and stuff like that. I remember seeing his debut and be like, who's this cheeky wee sod? I like him.
Yeah.
And he's very laid back. He makes mistakes, he brushes it off because he knows that the next phase of play, he can do something magnificent and win a game for you. And whereas I think Hog's very passionate, he's sort of Captain Scotland sort of guy. I thought sometimes that he was maybe a bit, the acronym is F it, I'll do it myself, FIIDM. And I think also with Jamie Ritchie wasn't very good at communicating with the referees. He always seemed to rub them up the wrong way. And I think it impacted his form as well. Whereas with Russell is just that kind of character. He's like, you know what? I can be the man. If you need me to take all the responsibility, to take the burden, give it to me. I can do it for you. And I think he's a great mentor for the young team. Like, I've seen a lot of people say, it's like, oh, that kind of attitude of his, but that doesn't rub off properly on the younger players. I'm like, no, it does, because it tells them, look, you will make mistakes, learn from them, be better. I think he's a tremendous player. And I think he's also a really good role model and captain.
Yeah. Oh, I'm a big fan. And he comes across well, doesn't he, as well, in that full contact series. And he got so much shit, the Messi thing. Now, that was Finn clearly taking a piss. And I think that's great. The amount of people on social media, it's like, he's taking the piss. He doesn't really think he's not really comparing himself to Messi. That's just part of his character, his personality. He's having a bit of banter. That upset so many people, didn't it?
I think what he's getting better at as well for me, and I don't know if you agree or not, Iain, is just post-match. I thought he was brilliant yesterday, because it would have been quite easy to do Mike Brown when we beat England to stop them winning the Six Nations, and just like face like slapped ass. Whereas Finn, a bit of a wry grin. Well, it's not really my place to say referees made the decision. I know what I think. And it was just done with such grace and such good humour. And I just think there's a confidence in that Scotland side that isn't going to be broken by this.
Yes. I mean, obviously we've got the rest week next week. If I was England, I would be worried, because I think at the moment we're a far better team than them. I think we are going to be raging after that. Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of raging, and I wasn't actually playing. I mean, if I was Steve Borthwick right now, I would be crapping my pants. I think that there's going to be a statement sent out in a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah, and that game is at Murrayfield, isn't it? Sorry, yes. It's at Murrayfield. Yeah, you got to fancy Scotland over there. I would. I'd certainly fancy Scotland for that one. Sorry, Gav, what are you saying?
I was going to say Scotland are easily the second best team in this competition. Because there's absolutely no question for me. France haven't looked that good at all. France were incredibly lucky against Scotland. England are poor. They beat the worst Wales team, and I know it's a developing Wales team, but the worst Wales team I can remember for at least a decade and a half, by 2 points at Twickenham.
It's inexperience, is that? I would say inexperience. I don't think we're a bad team. I just think we're inexperienced and we're in transition. But you are.
One thing about England, England, their succession planning has been really poor. I mean, for a team like Scotland, have got quite a very small player base, which is why we end up, sort of casting the net wide. Like, if you get a Scottish granny, cool, come over. Obviously, the Welsh Rugby Union, finances are in disarray there, so getting a good academy set up and all that kind of thing is going to be difficult. Whereas England, lots of money, the richest union in the world, And yet, they're still sort of, wheeling out Joe Marler and Dan Cole and Danny Kerr and stuff like that, guys who are, still decent players, but past their prime, you would say, certainly. And, it's scrum half. The scrum half succession planning has been rotten. There's been the likes of Richard Wigglesworth, Ben Youngs, guys who've been playing up to like the 35. Remember, they even had Willie Heinz in on a residency.
That's right, yeah.
And, he made his debut at the age of 32. Jack Van Poortvliet seems to have just been discarded. Alex Mitchell now is the guy, but they've just been so sort of slow to react, I would say. And then Eddie Jones left an absolute mess, as he tends to do.
Yeah, I was just going to say, as is his wont.
Yeah. I'm not a fan of Eddie Jones, by the way. I don't know if you guys know this, but I absolutely loathe Eddie Jones.
I respect him as a coach, but I think he's a bit of an arsehole, if I'm honest. But, when he left England, it was winning percentage. It was in the 70s, wasn't it? So that was the thing. He left England, but people criticising results, but he had a very high win rate. And, he's done wonders with Japan. I mean, Australia, he fucked that up. We all know that. I mean, that was a disastrous appointment. They should never got rid of Dave Rennie, the Aussie Rugby Union. They put all their eggs in one basket. They thought Eddie was the saviour, and, well, that went tits up, didn't it? But I respect him as a coach, but, as a person, I think he's a bit of a shit.
My hot take on English rugby, though, and I say this as somebody who lives in England, plays rugby for an English team, coaches an English team, England should win every Six Nations. They should win every Six Nations. There shouldn't even be a contest.
In theory, yeah, they should. When you consider the resources and the player pool and everything.
Absolutely. They've got more professional clubs than any other team in the world. They've got more professional players than any other country. They have a playing budget and a coaching budget that far outweighs any other country in the world. They've got the biggest TV audience for rugby in the world. They should be winning Six Nations at the drop of a hat, and Wales and Ireland, Scotland should be picking up the crumbs. So something is systemically wrong in English rugby for it not to be happening. For them to have won one World Cup, that's insane. That's absolutely insane. They are the Brazil, they are the Germany of rugby union in terms of the power they have. But unlike those two countries, they just don't back up on the field. I say this a lot on Minis Rugby on a Sunday to anyone who listens. It don't go down that well.
No, I can't imagine it does. Just going back to the games, we sort of drifted off a bit. I saw a very good tweet from Tom English, and he said, the ball was down. It was a try on that decision. TMO fought it. Then the ref fought it. And I like this bit now. He says, then they started to unseen what they'd already seen. That's a great line, Alice. They started to unsee what they'd already seen. Scotland should have had it wrapped up, of course. France were negative. Absolutely. They want to play. Got away with a lot at the breakdown, but they won. That's pretty spot on, isn't it? And I think the one moment of that game, which I thought was a big turning point, it was coming up to the end of the first half. You were in the France's red zone. You were pounded away, and you were giving away penalty after penalty after penalty. And if it was Antonio, wasn't it? Was sent to the sin bin after for a no arms tackle. And they had numerous opportunities just to take the 3 points and go into the sheds. But I can understand why they went for the scrum. They go for the scrum, and then France win that scrum penalty. And then they clear it, and then it goes then to halftime. That was a huge moment for me. And I do think that Scotland should have had it wrapped up, but they weren't clinical enough. And I do think that it should never got to that decision at the end. So I could see, do you think that's fair to say that Scotland weren't clinical enough, and they just didn't? They should have wrapped it up before we even got to that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I said, once the clock went red, when just before halftime, because when it got to I think we won a penalty with 38-30 gone, and I'm like, is Finn just will he have 90 seconds to run the clock down? Can he milk this for all it's worth and get to halftime? Because there's Scotland's restarts are a bit sketchy, so I was always kind of worried, if we get a restart, we'll knock it on, France will win a penalty, and then they'll just either go to the line and get a maul try, or take the 3 points, and all that work we've done is for nothing essentially. But once it went red, I'm like, take those 3 points, get into the sheds, because it was a straightforward kick. you know.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
So one thing I thought we got pretty lucky with, to be fair, the do-hand challenge on FICU.
Yes. What was all that about?
If that was the other way around, I'd be screaming for that one.
Yeah.
Because the arm is definitely high to begin with. It's very brief. I think as well his left arm grabs FICU kind of around the waist, but his right arm is over FICU's shoulder.
He seat belts him. It comes right over his shoulder. It's right across his chest. Well, I was convinced at that point that he's off.
A yellow on a penalty try.
Yeah, he's off on a penalty try. I was convinced of that. So these things even out. I think the thing with the try decision, and I totally agree with you, Ian. I'm not trying to be arsey for the sake of arsey.
Devil's advocate, yeah.
I think it was a try. But I knew he wasn't going to be given the minute he said on-field decision, no try, because then you need absolute proof positive, and that's your problem. And because this is the problem with rugby union as a sport using video refs, is it's not clean. There are times when you can't see the ball because there's 15, 18 stone blokes on top of it.
It hits the boot first, though, doesn't it? That's the thing.
Yeah,
and then you think,
touch the boot, then it rolled in.
Then it definitely does touch the ground. It looked like it was grounded.
Yeah,
it did look like it was going to be given, didn't it?
It looked grounded to me.
It looked like,
yeah. Well, he talked him out of it. Oh, so you're saying I should overturn my decision? Like Iain said.
That's what it felt like.
Whoa, hang on a second.
Yeah. But but it's like Nick Berry's like, but you just told me the ball was on the ground. Yeah, I know, but come on.
Yeah. I must admit there was a moment, well, there still is a moment where heart him out for me. So I have a ridiculous bet with Johnny McGinty from your pod that if Scotland win 4 games, I'm going to get the opening lyrics to Sunshine on Leaf tattooed on my arm. I don't have any tattoos. I'm a 50-year-old civil servant. So, it's...
people are just going to be reading it. Was it My Heart is Broken?
This game was giving me a bit of an escape.
I mean, things right. See if it was football and the whole ball needs to be over the line. Then you can go, right, cool, that's not conclusive.
Yeah.
But we can see enough of the ball, that any part of the ball just needs, even the very tip has to be on the ground. And the ball, there is ball on ground.
I can see that. Absolutely. Yeah.
I think it's a scandal skit. It was absolutely gutting. Like, I was sitting this exact same couch that I'm on just now. My girlfriend was sitting on over another one. And when they were like, doing that old rock and roll and things like, yeah, it's on the ground. I was like, my eyes lit up, but I kicked the coffee table out of the way, like, I'm going to jump up and scream in a minute, fucking yours. And then I'm like, here it comes. So no try. What? Fuck off.
The best part of it, well, not the best part of it, but the look on Finn's face when Nick Berry does the arms cross, no try. And he just arches an eyebrow.
I have to say, though, it was very Scotlandy, wasn't it? Because on this podcast, when things go badly wrong, we always say that was very Dragonsy. So Dragonsy means it's a cock up, it's shit. That did feel, you have to admit, Ian, it was very Scotland.
Peak Scotland.
That second half in particular, wasn't it? Peak Scotland, yeah.
I think like the only most other peak Scotland thing I can ever think of was there was a Women's World Cup a few years ago. Scotland had qualified for the first time in ages. Had to win to go through, went 3-0 up on Argentina. Then when it's 3-1, there's like a dodgy substitution gets made, like a Scotland player hasn't fully come off and replacement come on, Argentina scored to make it 3-2. Then Argentina got a penalty. The goalkeeper saved it. Then they fucking retook the penalty and scored, so it was 3 each, and Scotland got knocked out. It's the ability to grab defeat from the jaws of victory is second to none. But sometimes it's like, man, that was a screw job for me. I mean, I'm calling that the Murrayfield screw job from now on.
Oh dear. So speaking of Johnny McGinty, I'll ask you the same question I asked Mr. McGinty. So he appeared on the Rap podcast last season, and I asked him about Gregor Townsend. And, I said, would you like him to stay on after the World Cup? Now, Johnny said no, he didn't want him to stay on. And I just wonder, what are your thoughts on Gregor Townsend? And would you like him to sort of stay on, or do you think they should have, released him and got a new coach in for the Six Nations?
I don't think they should have extended his contract before the World Cup.
Okay.
I think they should have saw how that played out. The thing with Townsend is, like, I was a big fan when he got appointed. There's, I don't know if you're aware of this, but there's a big, Vern Coulter had been the manager before, the head coach beforehand.
Yeah, of course.
And there was a big fucking cabal of people called bring back Vern. Vern's been screwed over, all this kind of stuff. And then when Scotland got results, it was, this is only because it's Vern Coulter's team that Townsend's taken over. It's like, well, to be honest, it's Townsend made Glasgow Warriors a force to be reckoned with, and then they made up the bulk of the Scotland team. So I think when Townsend was given the job, maybe it was a bit too early, but they wanted to keep him before he became too expensive, probably. And he has got I think he's got the highest win percentage rate at the moment of any coach certainly since the professional era. But at the same time, he's one of these guys, kind of like Pep Guardiola. He's talked about Townsend's been to speak to like Pep Guardiola, even Steve Kerr, the basketball coach of the Golden State Warriors. He's very interested in learning different coaching techniques and all this kind of stuff. But he did seem to think along the same lines as Pep does, although Pep's kind of burst that rule with these Man City stay, like 5-year cycles. Once you've been somewhere for 5 years, you've probably used all your ideas up, and it's time for fresh, some fresh eyes to look at it. And I think maybe Townsend has taken this group of players as far as it can possibly go. So maybe we did need someone else to come in and go, right, we're just going to change this and this. Because you look at this individually, the players Scotland have some of them are excellent. Russell, Graham, their wingers, our back division is basically shit hot. Back row is such a competitive. I mean, Hamish Watson couldn't even make the squad now. That's how strong the back row is. Rory Darge is phenomenal.
Why is that then, Ian? Well, because I think people would be surprised by the omission of Hamish Watson. What is that? Is that form, or is it just the falling out with Gregor? What's it down to, do you think?
I think it's like a form and cycle thing. To me, Rory Darge is basically Hamish Watson 2.0. He just seems like a bigger, stronger version. And whereas Hamish Watson was first name on the team sheet all the time, the fact that Rory Darge has come in at the age of, I think he's 24, made captain after only a handful of international caps. Then I lost a bet with John Anderson about Jack Dempsey. I said he wouldn't turn, and then he did. Dempsey's a ferocious ball carrier.
Yeah.
And I said then likes of Luke Crosby. Because Watson is just a sort of specialist 7. Scotland like having guys who can cover 6 and 7. A sort of dual inside kind of idea. That's why Richie ended up playing 6 quite a lot. Crosby does it. Matt Fagerson, Fagerson's sort of 6'8" more. Although Fagerson's just sort of general all rounder. So that's I think Watson, just by lack of versatility, is finding his options limited.
Who knew he was so posh as well? Because I've never heard him speak. And then when they were interviewing him yesterday, I was like, well, that's not what I was expecting.
Posh Lancashire boy, yeah.
Oh, dear. Okay, shall we move on from Scotland then, Ian? Would you like that if we moved on to happier
let's
conversation?
Well, we'll see how that goes. Yeah.
Oh, no, I think this is definitely happier. So let's talk about Glasgow.
Right.
Glasgow Warriors. So, fair play, they're doing all right, didn't they, Glasgow? They're currently 3rd in the URC, and in Europe, Glasgow made it to the last 16, where they'll play Harlequins in the Champions Cup. That's going to be a good game. Looking forward to that one. So, all going very well for Glasgow. What are your thoughts on the season so far? You must be pretty pleased. Franco Smith doing a good job, isn't he?
Yeah, very good job. Danny Wilson, I'd started doing press conferences for the Scottish Rugby blog, which was the incubator for the podcast. So I started doing the press conferences during COVID times. And I remember Danny Wilson, I felt so sorry for him because it was clear his hands were hands were tied. The SRU ballsed up recruitment so fucking spectacularly that we ended up, once Stuart Hogg left, first we had Tommy Seymour at fullback and then Hugh Jones. Like
Yeah.
outside centre, mate. Do you want to fucking try going back there a bit? How's your kicking game? And we didn't have a 10. We were using Pete Horn at 10 or Brandon Thompson. Thompson, who I think famously during the COVID games, with straight in front of the sticks against Dragons to win the game, somehow managed to.
I was just about to talk about that. I was going to talk. That's in my notes later on. Yes, I remember it well.
I also remember him going down to Rodney Parade and shitting the bed spectacularly. Thompson just did things. Real confidence issues with Brandon Thompson. I think he went back to South Africa. I'm not sure what level he's playing at now.
Yeah, because he was South Africa, wasn't he? That's right. Yeah. I remember that.
I mean, actually, it was weird when I was looking up because I don't think we could capture him because he played. It's something to do with the under-20s World Cup. Even though him and Duhan were in the same team, I think because the teams they played against, they weren't the capture teams. Or like the team that Brandon Thompson played against, that was the capture team. So it was like when they played Italy under-20s, Italy under-20 is their capture team. So like Brandon Thompson played that game, so that was him technically now sort of capped. Whereas Duhan didn't play that game, so that's why he could do the residency thing. But yeah, the season is like Franco Smith came in, took over this disaster. I mean, that game, was it 76-14 we get pumped off of Leinster?
I remember that.
Wilson.
It was Danny Wilson. Yeah, that was a tough evening, wasn't it?
Man. I mean,
that was the point he got sacked, wasn't it, Wilson?
Yeah. The next day, Al Kellett was like, "Sorry, Danny." So Smith came in, and then thankfully the checkbook got opened, probably because the Scottish government gave the SRU loads of money. And the less I say about Mark Dodson, the better. I'm glad he's going. So we started getting in sort of good quality replacements. We lost the likes of Johnny Gray, Finn Russell, Stuart Hogg, and we replaced them with guys who we'd deemed surplus to requirements 3 years previously. But then, we bring in the likes of Josh Mackay, Sebastian Cancellieri, Sione Tuipulotu, who came in under Wilson, but nobody looked good playing under Danny Wilson, to be honest. So it's only since Franco Smith has came in that he looks like a real baller. One thing I've noticed under Wilson, our work rate was appalling. So I think Franco Smith came in and was like, right, conditioning needs dealt with. And we started playing that fast, energetic, helter-skelter 100-mile-an-hour rugby, which we like. We like a bit of that up in our room. Sorry, on you go, Gav.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about Hugh Jones, Ian. So Hugh Jones was at you at Glasgow, and I saw him playing for Harlequins in the Premiership Cup when he looked about double the age of all the kids he was playing with. And then within 2 years' time, he's back in the Scotland team. Yeah. What happened there? Because he looked, I always thought he looked solid enough in his first spell with Scotland and with Glasgow. And then, he seemed to have fallen off the radar a bit. And then he, is now back at Glasgow and is absolutely instrumental in that Scotland team as well.
What happened there was he left. He won the Currie Cup with the Stormers or Western Cape, whatever they call themselves for that competition. One man of the match, and then left the celebrations early. Hadn't even told his teammates. He's like, "I'm actually booked on a flight, so I'm leaving. I'm going up to Glasgow, starting with them on Monday." Then Dave Rennie didn't give him any rest periods and basically treated him like shit. He, for reasons unbeknown to anyone, Dave Rennie seemed to prefer playing Nick Grigg at 13 to Hugh Jones or even Alec Dunbar. Ahead of the Scarlets game, when when it was like baking hot in Glasgow and all the Scarlets players complained about getting like burns basically off the Scotstoun pitch, he said he picked Nick Grigg ahead of Alec Dunbar for his defensive reasons. Now, Nick Grigg had a 70% tackle completion ratio, whereas Alec Dunbar was an absolute monster and really good over the deck. So I don't know what the fuck Nick Grigg had on Dave Rennie to ensure that he kept on getting picked ahead of Hugh Jones and Alec Dunbar. Hugh Jones also had some injury issues. He kind of was coming in and out of the team, but he wasn't given a fair crack of the whip. That's been one complaint with a lot of people about Dave Rennie's tenure at Glasgow. Even Matt Smith, there was a former player who's actually retired and said he was considering suicide because of how he was treated.
God.
So that answers that, why Hugh Jones, like, for some reason, was sort of cut adrift and then came back. I think with Harlequins, I think it was a salary cap thing. With them, they had to kind of get rid of him, and
he wasn't playing a lot of rugby at Harlequins, so kind of he was on the fringes. He wasn't regularly getting into the side, so which makes it feel even more fantastic, the journey he's gone on. My Scottish rugby claim to fame is I very, very, very vaguely know Hugh Jones's brother, who was a head teacher in Eastbourne. So this is my Hugh Jones claim. I very vaguely know him.
I was wondering where the link was then. I was trying to figure out where the link was. Sorry, go on, Ian.
I actually have a video clip of Hugh Jones doing Rapper's Delight on karaoke. It's in the Up and Under, which is the bar in Murrayfield. They have like players sometimes come in and stuff, and he started doing Rapper's Delight.
That is quite the. I don't need to see that because I'm just imagining it, and
it's as majestic as it sounds.
I can imagine a posh lad doing Rapper's Delight whilst drunk. I bet that is clearly a delight.
Oh dear. Okay, let's talk about some signing news then. So Glasgow has signed tight head prop. I don't know if I got the pronunciation right. Patrick Shingling. It is Shingling, is it? From Exeter Chiefs. What do you know about him then, Ian?
Absolutely nothing, other than he's Namibian.
I was only get some info on him. Yeah, I never heard of him either. No ideas.
No, it's I find it quite bizarre that Scotland has a problem like producing front row props, because they're usually kind of small and fat, and we are the poor man of Europe, so we should have plenty of them kicking about. So instead we seem to just go down to southern African countries and be like, we'll take you, we'll try you out. Because if you look at Ollie Kebble, who now can't get a look in the Scotland squad, like it's only Xander Fagerson, I think, is the we do seem to have a problem with tight head. Tight is such a difficult position to fill, and then the guys who have come through, your likes of guys like Murray McCallum, Darcy Ray, Adam Nicholl, who haven't quite hit the standards of to be test match players. But no, there is a thing is right. Although it's nice to see Scotland doing well, and I'm fine with residency players, I think it's if you want to come and play for Scotland, fucking excellent. Come on in, lovely.
It's part of the game, isn't it? Yeah, it's part of the game.
But it does show that there's been, a coaching failure, a coaching system set up failure in Scottish rugby for quite some time.
Yeah, it does raise question marks about the pathways, doesn't it?
And like the Sevens getting canned, and the Sevens was such a good pathway. Like that's where George Horn, Darcy Graham, and all that came through. That's that losing that, having to make a Team GB was quite disappointing.
That was funding, though. That wasn't just SRU funding. That was everybody funding. And the IOC, because the IOC was partially funding, not the IOC, the British Olympic, the BOA, was partially funding all of them, and said, whoa, hang on, we're not getting anything out of this. So if you want to be our Olympic team, we'll fund you as an Olympic team, but that's your lot. So, it's that was partially the reason for that. The tight head thing's interesting, though, isn't it? Because I don't think the game is producing proper tight heads anymore, not just Scotland. I don't think anyone is producing proper tight heads anymore, because we became obsessed as a game about the ability for props to get around the field. Fine, right? That's great if prop can get around the field. Tight heads have got two jobs in my head. One of them is to unnerve the hell out of their opposite number, and the other one is to hold the scrum up, and that's all they're there to do. And you can do the Thomas Francis thing of just slowing down rucks, and that's enough. If you're doing that as a tight head and holding your end up, you're doing every bit. And I think that's part of the issue now. And, you've had to ship in a proper tight head from somewhere else. We can't find a tight head for love nor money. England are having to bring back men nearly as old as me. There's a problem in the game.
Yeah. Well, one player you will be familiar with, Iain, is Rory Sutherland. So it's been reported that Glasgow are going to sign him on a 2-year deal when his short-term deal with Oyonnax runs out at the end of the season. You'd be pleased with that? That's a good sign, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, he's another one who's had dreadful problems with injuries. He was out for nearly 2 years. Apparently he ripped both of his groin muscles straight off the bone.
Ouch.
Sounds agony. And again, he had to sort of bide his time at Edinburgh once he came back from injury. And then he was kind of parachuted back into the Scotland squad, 2017 maybe. And we were sort of, oh, Suz is back. All right, cool. And then he was excellent. He was probably the best loose head in the tournament. Good scrummager, good round the park.
Yes.
A very good player, but I think he's now about 31, 32.
He's 31, yeah.
Yeah, so he's in that kind of, I'd say, peak propping age. Did you look at someone like WP now? They reckon he's playing some of his best rugby of his career, and he's 37.
He's a good player. You can scrummage WP now.
Yeah,
Big fan.
That's when you were talking about proper tight heads, Gav. I was like, that's VP now.
That's exactly what I was talking about when you had to ship one in there, because he is the archetype of a tight head for me, because I just imagine he'd be a good laugh to have a drink with, and but he'd be able to ship it as well. He'd be throwing it down him. It's a proper tight head. But I think as a team, Glasgow are, I think they're doing much better than almost I imagined they would do. And I've always taken it with a bit of pinch of salt, because Johnny tells me how great they are, and I filter that through reality a bit.
Johnny's a liar, yeah.
But
are you surprised? Sorry, just asking. Are you surprised that they're doing so well? Is this above your expectations, or are you actually they are where you expected them to be this season?
Well, I mean, I expect them to be competitive. With the very best teams, I expect to be competitive. So far, we've only lost away to Connacht. Sorry, I've got the pronunciation wrong. Only caught the last half hour of that game, and we were really poor defensively. But again, Connacht are a very good team. They've got a good attacking structure. Munster away, we lost to, and then we lost away to Edinburgh. But Duhan's, like the last, I think it was 5 minutes to go, he scored a try, but his foot went in touch before he went over the line, but they never bothered to TMO it. Edinburgh actually doing better than I thought. I thought they just don't look as good as us, to be honest. They've been grinding at results, but it's just the injection of pace that our backline can produce. The Huey Pilotu combination at 12-13 is dynamite, and even when they're not playing, there's someone like Stafford McDowell who's come in. Again, the guy who'd kind of broken into the team a few years ago, looked the business, then had injury issues, then was being overlooked for some reason, was nearly on his way out. But then Franco Smith came in and went, "You're a bit of a player, we'll keep you." And he's playing some very good rugby. He's a fucking unit of a lad. He's like 6'5" outside centre, got a cannon of a left foot on him. It's not the most accurate, but if you snap for the ball in the 22 and in your own 22 and ship it off to him, you're getting plenty of territory. So I think I'm happy. What I'm surprised about is who's above us directly. Benetton are in second place at the moment.
They are a proper serious team now, Benetton. The days of them being a laughing stock, years ago. It wasn't that long ago, mind. They finished bottom of the league and they didn't win a single game.
Yeah.
And since then, they won the Rainbow Cup. And they're like one of the best teams in the league. It's remarkable. But a lot of that has to do with funding, mind. They are getting heavily invested in by the Italian Union as well. Money does help, which the WRU need to understand. Fund our teams properly, and maybe we could have 4 Benettons. But it's been a pretty good season, isn't it, for Benetton?
All 3 Benettons, because we don't need 2 clubs in West Wales.
I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. I am not going to go down that
not touching
rabbit
that with a
hole.
barge pole, lads. You can leave that to yourself. Right?
Yeah. We don't want any mention of Anglo Welsh leagues on you either.
No, I don't genuinely believe that. But, I like to throw that in occasionally just to...
I will remind you, we have got Scarlets and Ospreys fans who listen to this podcast, mate. So, just say it.
I don't genuinely believe that. I get rid of Cardiff.
Oh, yeah, get rid of Cardiff. Absolutely. Yeah. Get rid of them tomorrow. Well, they're the capital, and the Czech but Charlies now, anyway, with all their bloody Dubai money. Right, okay. Let's focus on this weekend then. So, Glasgow facing Dragons. We touched on this earlier. So, the last time Dragons won in Glasgow was December 2020. He was doing the COVID era.
Right.
Brandon Thompson missed that's for the conversion right in front of the post. And I know you'll disagree with me, Ian, but I have to say, I thought Dragons were the better team that night. In some ways, it was just deserved. And it would have been very cruel to have lost that game because I thought we were excellent. So as much as I felt for Brandon Thompson, I actually thought in some ways good because it's just deserved. But yes, that's what it felt like to me.
I think the time
we
before
I
vaguely remember, I think especially the second half, you were the better side. I think but what I was remembering just on the sort of drive back home from work, the very short drive back home, was like when Dragons beat us. I think it was my second year as a season ticket holder, and we'd gone the first year we hadn't lost at home, so we hadn't been beaten at home for like 15 games. It was either Six Nations or Autumn Window. I remember it was Baltic for a start. And we were missing quite a lot of our Scotland players, but we still had like Nico Matawalu. I think DTH Madner Merva was playing. Josh Strauss, he hadn't become a Scotland cap by that point. And Dragons won. It was Jason Tovey did a kicking masterclass.
The legend Jason Tovey, who played for Edinburgh as well.
He did have Edinburgh, yeah. I remember that.
Yeah.
But I remember that was the first time I'd seen him, and I was like, this boy could. I mean, did you ever feel he didn't quite reach his potential, or was it just?
Oh, definitely. Much? Yeah, he didn't. I think with Tovey, as much as I liked him, I don't think he had the drive or desire. Because he actually came. No, so he came on the Rat Pod, and I asked him about the time when he got called up to the Wales extended World Cup training squad because they went to Poland, didn't they? And he dropped out. And Tovey was like, I asked him about it. He said, I just didn't want it, mate. He said, I went there, I did it, I just thought this end for me. Which I really admired his honesty to just go, do you know what? No. And he did get accused a lot of being a lazy player. There are occasions, like sometimes Finn Russell's had, isn't he? When it looks like he doesn't care. When he does care, that's just his way of sort of, how he is on the field. Yeah, he just gave off that impression. It wasn't true. But I don't think Tovey was...
No, I don't.
Sorry, Nico Gav.
No, sorry. I don't think he's a lazy player, Tovey. He just, and I've heard this from people who can train with him, just really didn't like training, would train. Just wasn't one of those people who ever really liked training.
So it's a Finn Russell anecdote from Graham Morrison, former Scotland and Glasgow Warriors centre. He said, when he was a senior player at Glasgow, and they got these sort of the academy, the Falls Rock Academy kids in. There was Finn Russell and Rob Harley were in the same team, same sort of class. He said that Finn Russell, like they all had weights programs. But he's like, I'd look across the gym and Finn Russell would just be like standing about dancing, like picking different tunes on the CD player. And we were like, oh, who's this like lazy little prick, right? And then they were like, and then we went out and played rugby. We were just like, whoa, that's fine. He doesn't have to lift another weight in his life if he could play like that.
I got a lot of time and respect for Tovey. He is a Dragons legend. And let's not forget his last ever kick for the Dragons was beating the Scarlets at the Principality Stadium on Judgment Day. Remember that, Gav?
Yeah, no, I've always liked Tovey. What he always looks like to me is a player from the 80s. Long before the idea of playing playbooks, he'd look up, he'd see what was on and have a go. And that's what I liked about him. And maybe that's why he was a fish out of the water in the modern game.
Yeah. Very hot and cold player. Because on his day, when he was hot, Tovey was excellent, mate. Very talented.
Like Stephen Hook, James Hook.
James Hook. I was going to say, Stephen Hook. Yeah, I'll just say. But on an off day, he was very bad. He was just one of those players when he was on it, he was excellent.
9 or a 4.
Excellent, yeah. But no, I got a lot of time for Tovey. So anyway, 2020, that was the last time Dragons went to Glasgow. Behind closed doors, we said we all know what happened. Famous victory for the Dragons. They ended up winning that. However, the last time Dragons played in Glasgow was in the Challenge Cup, and we got absolutely battered, 73-33. Aki Salui, remember him?
I do. Aki
I
Salui.
remember. Yeah, how come he plays good for you when he plays shit for us then? Well, what's that all about? Because he was your player of the season, wasn't he? At one point, he was voted. Was he supported player of the season?
Possibly, yeah. I mean, he was. I remember there was a couple of games, one against Benetton actually. He could not scrum for fuck. Like he was.
Yeah, that's still the same now.
Yeah,
that's still nothing's changed.
He was more like I don't know, maybe more like a sort of what hookers are like now. You know, it's like most of them are like rapid. You've got Sheehan and George Turner and stuff like that. You know, he was a real sort of wrecking ball carrier.
He's good in the loose, I will say that. Aki Salui. I think he's a good sort of replacement to have on the bench because he can come on and he can give you a bit of energy, but scrummaging, it's fair to say, is not his forte. And he received a red card in that game on 33 minutes. And as you rightly said, Johnny Matthews, 5 tries. The first player in Glasgow Warriors history to score 5 tries in a game. Very, very painful afternoon. I was in bed at home at the time and I got score updates. And
I was in Amsterdam.
I looked at my phone and I was just like, what the fuck's going on? Yeah. 73-33.
I was in Amsterdam. We'd been at the Keukenhof Gardens that day, and we came back and we were going out for dinner, and like Rona jumped in the shower and I was like, oh, I'll just check how the Warriors are doing. Fuck me. It's like, I think by this point it was like 40 something. Yeah, because I could actually access TNT Sports, whatever channel it was on my tablet, and I caught a couple of Johnny Matthews try. There was one where Alan Dell made the break first and then played a lovely pass. Yeah, that was like if Glasgow get ahead of steam on, you know, they're so used to that artificial turf, you know, the speed of play sometimes, it just teams can't live with it. Even the best can't live with it sometimes. So it was like,
I haven't watched the full game back. I refuse to watch. All I've seen is the highlights. Because I recorded it, and I refuse now to watch the full game back. I think Harley, from the Rat Pod, I got him to cover for me. So he came on the Rat Pod, it's like he covered for me. And I got him to watch, even though he's a Cardiff fan. I asked him to watch it, and he texted me saying, "Oh my god, it's fucking awful!" Like we couldn't defend that driving lineup. See, that's why Johnny Matthews kept scoring. We just could not cope with the driving lineup.
Our Mole defence that game, because I did watch it, and you know, like I'm going for very expensive therapy to get it taken out of my brain. Our Mole defence was inept, absolutely inept, and at one point, I can't remember which of his 5 tries, they drive in near the touchline and we wheeling it, but instead of wheeling it to the touchline to narrow it, we wheeling it open to give him more space to run into. You know, I've never played professional rugby. I've been in a hell of a lot of moles, but I've never played professional rugby. I know you don't do that. Why are they doing that? They're being paid to make those decisions. That is not a great game. And like the Alan Dell break, like you say, is just one of the most ridiculous things I've ever seen on a rugby field. Because it looks like he's running in tar. It looks like time has stopped around him and he is running in tar. And our defence has just let him waddle through, for want of a better phrase, and then pop it off. It was, well, not a great game.
But we've been on the end of a couple of really heavy beatings from Glasgow. I can remember 2013, Glasgow came down here and we lost 60 points to 3. And that was our heaviest defeat in the league. That's been surpassed now by the Sharks. But do you remember that?
Vaguely, that was actually the first time that I'd realised Warriors games were on BBC Alba, which is the Gaelic language channel.
Yeah.
And I remember it was a bloody mudbath.
It would have been Rodney Parade,
The old RP was, not fit for anything.
No, I remember Nico. Every time Nico Matawalu got the ball, he was just skinning like 3 players at a time. So I think I'd clicked on maybe end of the first half, and I just remember being very impressed with how Glasgow were playing, because I think that was the first. Yeah, that was first season that Glasgow had played at Scotstoun, I think. So I'd been to one game, but I didn't get a season ticket that year. I got a season ticket the next year. So I was like, I was always wanting to keep abreast of how we were playing. And then I found them on BBC Alaba. Yes, that was one of the first times I'd seen Ryan Wilson play as well. When he tended to play 8 in his early days and carried more rather than be an absolute bastard.
8 tries to 0. There was 8 tries to 0, and Duncan Weir scored 16 points.
16 points.
So
Duncan Weir went to my high school, so he did.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
I like Duncan Weir, good player.
Yeah,
So,
he was a good player.
Useless fact, he was classmates with Scotland Football International Kenny McLean.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So, bearing everything in mind now, between, where the Dragons are and where Glasgow are, you must be pretty confident that this weekend, what are you expecting? A resounding victory, a bonus point win?
To be honest, yeah, I think we should be putting 40, 50 points on Dragons. Even with, I don't think a lot of the Scotland returning contingent will play, but then you've still got, I actually need to check how our injury list is, because we had a massive injury list for a while. I don't know if like Sebastian Cancellieri might be back. He's a lethal finisher. Like I said, McDowell, he'll be playing. George Horn might get minutes because we're very short of scrum halves. We sent Ali Price along the road to Edinburgh, and Jamie Dobie promptly went and buggered his knee up. We are down to like George Horn, and I think George Horn got a wee injury as well. So Sean Kennedy, who's on a sort of part-time contract along with Stirling County at Super 6.
Yeah. So this is the thing, though. Yeah. So sorry, this is the thing. So when Glasgow played Dragons at Rodney Parade last season, it was also during the Six Nations period. Now, Wales had 0 players released from camp. I don't think Ron Gatland released any players to us. Now, Glasgow had 6. And one of those players was Fraser Brown, who ended up being player of the match. And that made a huge difference. It didn't feel like a fair contest. I mean, we would have been struggling anyway, even if I thought, but it felt a little bit unjust. Glasgow had 8 nationals and we did, sort of thing. But I'm just wondering, do you think Scotland will release some internationals to Glasgow for this game? Are you expecting any players? Or do you think they'll be remained in camp?
Seeing as a lot of them have started, no, I don't think they will. George Horn might. But I think, Xander Fagerson and Turner, Cummings has started both games. I don't think it would be wise to risk Darge, even though you might think, he might want more minutes in his legs. He seems that kind of guy who just wants to play all the time. I think they should save him for England, because he's only just back. Huey Pelotu, they won't go back. They've cemented their place in midfield. Kyle Stein might play. Do you know why he missed he was in the starting lineup originally, but
was this his partner's having a baby?
Yeah, his wife went into labour, so Harry Patterson got the phone call at 9 o'clock. You might have to lace up today. And then at 10 o'clock, yes, unring your boots. And he played pretty well, I thought. I think, the fringe players will. Like I said, the ones who, a lot of them won't. I've very much doubt we'll see a lot of the returning Scotland players, but I mean, this is the thing with only having two pro teams. Fraser Brown was released back, but he probably didn't play very much. It's for Scotland, because George Turner would be starting. Dave Cherry as well. He was he's been discarded, I would imagine, after his alleged World Cup antics.
Tin trays.
Sorry?
Was there a story involving a tin tray about Dave Cherry? Well,
he fell down the stairs, didn't he?
Yeah.
Didn't he fall down the stairs? Yeah.
There's also other stuff I'll maybe say off air.
Yes.
Allegations.
Okay.
One of he apparently wanted to fight Jack Dempsey as one of them, and that's a terrible idea. Jack Dempsey's nuts.
Oh yeah. I won't take him on.
No. But no, I think Glasgow will have enough in the locker. I think Josh Mackay, for example, he's a tremendous player. So I would hope for 5 points.
Fair enough. Gav, can you see Gatland releasing somebody like Tane Basham for this game? I can't see us getting any players. Can you? We've only got 6 players to the Welsh camp anyway, but no.
No, it'll be a young team we put out against them, I imagine. You know, like kind of, and even then, we've got a lot of guys in the under-20s, so hopefully we'll get Ackerman and Woodman back. Or Woodman's injured, so we won't get him back.
He's injured,
hopefully, hopefully we get Ackerman back. But then, other than that, it's going to be, well, whoever's left, really, isn't it?
So obviously we're recording this much earlier, this pod, than we normally would, so we don't have a clue about team news or anything. But I went on the Argus website earlier this evening just to see if I could get some, information about any players to be available for this fixture. So they're saying that Angus O'Brien should make his return after suffering a broken arm in November, which would be a big boost for us. Dan Lydiate and Harry Keddy should also be available for this game. And that'll be a big boost when having Dan Lydiate back with the leadership and Harry Keddy. And Gonzalo Bertranu, he's expected to be in contention. So that'll be interesting if he does get into 23. Do you have Rodri and Gonzalo? I don't imagine Dave Blacker will get a look at if he's fit. We'll have to see. There is a bit of concern over Lloyd Fairbrother, though. So he has a calf injury and he's going to be touch and go, and that'll be a big miss, if he's not available, because he is our best scrummager tight end. So I think we'll put up a decent team, but it is going to be missing some quality, as will Glasgow, of course, but Glasgow have better players, more depth for us. So,
strength in depth, yeah.
Strength in depth, that's going to be
Johnny. The bad news for you guys is that Johnny Matthews hasn't played a minute for Scotland so far.
So I know.
He'll probably
spoke to Gav before you recorded. I said, watch him release Johnny Matthews. He goes straight into the team and you'll score 8 tries. Something ridiculous like that. I hope they've worked on their Maul defence.
No, our Maul defence is a lot better this season.
It have been in fairness.
I think our Maul defence has been a lot better this season, and we were unlucky not to beat Edinburgh early in the season. Ian's right. I think they're probably getting a bonus point win out of it, but I don't think it'll be an absolute shellacking like it was in the Challenge Cup.
I hope not. I absolutely hope not. I'd be happy with a losing bonus point. And I know that sounds negative, but I'm just being realistic when you look at the two teams. If you are going to play Glasgow, I think now's the time to do it during Six Nations. Even though they probably will have some players back, but Scotstoun is a very difficult place to go. And Glasgow are a very, very good team. So if we come away with a bonus point, I'd be very, very happy about that. Okay, so let's make our predictions then before we go. Iain, let's start with it. Well, we know what you're going to say, but let's get a score prediction anyway. How do you think this is going to go? Glasgow by how many?
30. 30 to
30?
30 to 35. So like 44-10, something like that. 45-10.
It'd be really funny if they lost now, because I was just remember this conversation. It would
You'll have me back
really
anytime, eh?
You'll be back every week, to be honest, Ian. If we win this game, you're on every week, because we don't win many games.
What are you saying there, Gav?
38-17 to Glasgow.
Right, okay. I'm going to go Glasgow by... It's difficult because we haven't seen the teams. And I think if you see the lineups, you get a better sort of understanding of how the game could pan out. But I got a feeling it wouldn't surprise me if Glasgow do get some players back and Johnny Matthews comes in. And I think it's going to be Glasgow by 17. Yeah, Glasgow by 17. Unfortunately, it's a very, very difficult trip. But I just hope that we get those boys back that we mentioned. We need the likes of Lydiate back. And we need Harry Keddy back. And if Gonzalo can come back and Angus O'Brien, I think if we still haven't got those guys, I think it could be a long night.
Yeah. If those 4 aren't back, it will be much more than the 21 I've predicted, I imagine.
Yeah. The game is live on S4C and Fireplay Sports. So, if you haven't got Fireplay Sports, you can watch this on S4C. I think I was going to ask you, Ian, as well. You've got a connection to Newport, haven't you? Do you want to tell us what that is?
Yeah, I was a student back at, as it was known at the time, the University of Wales College Newport, the campus in Caerleon.
Yeah.
Now they film Sex Education, the Netflix
That's right.
show. And also third year, I lived on campus for 2 years. Then third year, I moved to I can't remember the number exactly, but I think it was like 110 or something, round about there. And it was on the back of like Rodney Parade. One of the gates to Rodney Parade, yeah. So there was like a school, and then Rodney Parade just off to the
Maindy.
right.
Yeah, that'll be Maindy School. Yeah. Did you like living in Newport?
Not really. I hear it's got a lot better. Like Curleen was quite a nice wee village in that, but
Curleen's beautiful, mate. I like it. It's nice.
Yeah, but it was like when town centres were starting to die on their arse a bit and that, so it wasn't.
When were you there, Iain?
2001 to 2004. So I graduated 20 years ago this year.
It was quite grim when you were there. You really should have experienced it in the 90s. When
Newport was the new Seattle in the 90s. I'll have you know. It was on the up in the 90s. Yeah. I
used to like drinking in TJ's. That was my.
I tell you what, right? You want to see it now? It's rotting away. It's so sad. You go past it on Clarence Place, and it's just literally rotted away. It's gutted. But we still got the pub, which is the closest you're going to get to something like that. We got Batan's, which is like a rock bar in town. We've opened a Corn Exchange. It's a new venue.
All right. There's one of them.
Like Cardiff got, yeah. So where everyone in Newport, that's going to be opening soon. I'm going to see Goldie Looking Chain there in November. They've got like a lot of indie bands and tribute bands. I think they've got Guns N' Roses tribute. That was good. I think Newport needs a new venue. So Newport was on the up in the 90s, guys. So I'm going to disagree with you there.
It didn't feel on the up, Jamie. It didn't feel on the up, is what I would say, particularly the early 90s.
All right, okay, particularly early 90s, yeah. Newport Centre is gone as well. I don't know if you know that, Iain. Lots of famous bands played there. Was you aware of Newport Centre when you was there? Did you see any gigs?
No, I didn't actually. No, don't think. The only times I went to gigs was like through in Cardiff.
Yeah.
I think I saw the Strokes, which was pish. They were terrible.
Were they? I don't mind the Strokes.
I'd seen. Then I saw them at. I can't mind if I saw them before or after. I saw them at a festival. What's like Transmit now? It used to be called like Gig on the Green, and I saw them there, and they were really good there. But then they were terrible in Cardiff, and somebody kicked my pint over as well. They didn't go buy me one back.
Don't want that, dear.
And I saw Radiohead, and I see Portishead. No, I saw Portishead in Edinburgh. I can't remember who else. But I think that was it. Oh fuck no! What am I talking about? My pal was at uni in Salford, right? And it just so happened he went home for the weekend. This is my pal from back home in Cambuslang. And he was like, "Cool, what you up to on Monday?" And I was like, "Oh man, I've got this fucking essay to finish off." And he's like, "No, you're coming with me to see the Manics." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He'd gone home, picked up his mail, and he'd won, those Carling homecoming gigs.
Yeah.
He won tickets to that, like in St David's Theatre.
St David's Hall. St David's Hall.
And,
which is now closed because the that concrete thing. So they've had to move all the gigs from there into the it is. I always call it the CIA, the Cardiff International Arena. It's now the Utilita Arena now. So
one of some of the guests that night up in the upper circle, it was the All Blacks because they were playing Wales.
Really?
At the weekend.
That would have been great. Yeah. Oh, brilliant. Oh, well, this is an enjoyable chat. I'd love to stay on and talk more about music, but this is a Dragons Rugby podcast. We probably are going to have to wrap it up. Brilliant. Iain, thank you so much for joining us. Best of luck to Glasgow for the rest of the season, except for this weekend. I'm not going to lie. Just go easy on us, please. I don't want another hammering because I can't.
We'll take the 5, but you can have a losing BP. And
I'll take that.
Try BP as well. All right, we'll make it 35-29.
Right, I'll take that.
Deal. Right, sweet.
Yeah, that'll be perfect. No, actually, I consider that. You could, yeah. I would consider that a big success if that happened. If you fair us. Gav, thank you as always. So we'll be back next week. Where I think, trying to figure we got next. Is it Ulster? I think we got next.
It is Ulster.
Oh Christ! It is the way, isn't it?
Yeah.
Doesn't get any easier, my voice, does it? Oh dear. Anyway, we'll be back to review that and to look back on the Glasgow game. Where hopefully Dragons will get something out of it. So until then, take care of yourselves and goodbye.
Ciao.
Thank you for listening to the Dragon's Lair podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show. Please subscribe, rate and review wherever you listen to us, as it really helps spread the word. You can find us on all the usual social media channels or email us on welshregionalrugbypod@gmail.com. And remember, whatever the question is, rugby is always the answer.
Sports Social Podcast Network.